Welcome everyone, and welcome to today's little debrief on the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And we're not going to go into depth of the whole Grand Prix itself, but I want to specifically talk about Red Bull. Now, of course, it's quite clear for everyone to see that Red Bull has by far the best car on the grid, easily over 1.5 seconds a lap quicker than the next best car on the grid, which is the Aston Martin at the moment, in particularly Fernando Alonso's hands. But what I thought was very intriguing today was post-race, the reactions. Of course, Sergio Perez on a massive high has just won the race from start to finish, qualified on pole, and do you know what? For me, he was the driver of the day because Max, as to be expected, starting 15th position due to that drive shaft issue, which pulled him out of qualifying, made his way through the field and was then within a 5-second gap of Sergio Perez. Now, I think everyone kind of knows that Sergio Perez is the number 2 driver in Red Bull. Max is quite clearly number 1, double world champion, and is a phenomenal driver. But today, Sergio Perez held off Max, and for me was very, very impressive. He knows realistically that if Max gets within 3 seconds of Sergio, even at this stage of the season, 2 races in, he's going to get a call from Christian Horner. Sergio, you need to let Max by, because that's probably, maybe there's something in his contract, or just everyone kind of knows unwritten rule wise that Max is number 1 driver. It's happened early on in the season last year at Barcelona when Sergio kind of deserved to at least fight for that position out on track. He'd gained first place on his own and deserved the right to at least defend against his teammate. But Red Bull haven't really allowed any teammates to fight against each other against Max since Daniel Ricciardo. I think Christian Horner is still scarred from the Baku incident back then, and I don't think we're ever going to see the days of Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel ever again at Red Bull fighting for a championship. They know the smart decision is to have a number 1 driver. I think maybe that's where, like, on another side note, that Ferrari are maybe letting themselves down, is that they try and treat their drivers as equals rather than having a clear number 1 or number 2. But it's understandable you want to give fairness to both drivers, but at Red Bull they quite clearly don't do that. But the celebrations afterwards were very different. Now, you'd be thinking Max would be kind of happy that he got to second place after starting from 15th. Even in a rocket ship of a car that he's got, it's still tough to overtake at a track like Saudi Arabia, where there's more risk. There's not a lot of room for error with all the walls and stuff. And he still managed to do it. Now, he wasn't able to close down Perez. I think his celebrations afterwards, he was kind of in the press conference very aggressive and very angry at his team for, one, having the reliability issues with the drive shaft. He kind of had to back off at the end of the race as well within the last 5 laps to make sure he brought the car home, which stopped him from chasing down Sergio. But I think Sergio had Max covered anyway. That for 20 odd laps, he maintained a 5-second gap, and Max chipped a tenth away here or there and got it down at best to like 4.2 seconds, but not enough maybe to get that call of letting Sergio through. And as I said, even though it's the second race of the season, I think that scenario would have happened if Max had got close enough within 3 seconds. Which would have been totally unfair on Sergio because he did everything right this weekend. He qualified on pole when Max went out. In qualifying, he's then led from, well, apart from the first corner, he then retook the lead from Fernando Alonso and covered him off brilliantly under the safety car restart. Just completely went off into the distance after building a sizable lead anyway, as he should in such a quicker car. But yeah, that true pressure of being chased down by Max in kind of the last third of the race was really where Sergio deserves to be given an opportunity to fight for a world championship, in my opinion. Still think really Sergio needs a lot of help in regards to Max having some reliability issues. If Max had qualified on pole this weekend, would we have seen Sergio and Max so close together? I'm not so sure. But when being chased down, and proof in the pudding today, I think he at least deserves to be given an opportunity. And I would have hoped that he at least would have been given an opportunity to defend that lead today. It didn't come about. Thankfully, he held Max off. But yeah, Max's dad standing right next to Sergio celebrating was a face of thunder. Max being very aggressive afterwards as well in the press conference to the team, which I get, like, your main rival this year is going to be your teammate. But realistically, like, it's your teammate that you know that you're faster than, theoretically, and you know is your number 2 driver. It just showed a very, I don't know, a kind of an insecure side of Max, to be honest. I'm not here to be second, I'm here to be first. Yeah, okay, I'll get that. But have a look at what happened this weekend. You started 15th due to a reliability issue. Take what you can get. Second is a great finish anyway. You still got fastest lap. You're still leader in the championship ahead of Perez. So... yeah, I think that dynamic, basically what this whole video is about, is I think that dynamic could get very tasty this year. I made a video a while back in regards to Brazil. I think we are going to see, I think Brazil was the end of their relationship. Now, you can argue that it was even further back than that with Monaco, with Perez, and a lot of evidence to suggest that he actually spun on purpose in Monaco to gain that 3rd position and that grid slot ahead of Max. Coincidentally, the race after Barcelona, when he'd been told to let Max by from like 13 seconds ahead of him in the race. Yeah, I think this season we could see the Red Bull teammates clash quite a bit. And for me, with them having a car that is so much quicker than the rest of the field, and even with the cost cap penalty, and that really not seeing the effects of the lack of development on their car until the second half of the season, I think they're going to be so far ahead anyway. And they're so far ahead now that none of the cars are really going to catch up to them this year. We need some spiciness in this championship. And if Perez can have a little bit of luck with Max having some reliability issues, and as long as when Max falters, Perez is there to pick up the pieces, as he should do in such a faster car. Oh, I'd love to see that dynamic from the Verstappen's side of the garage and Perez. I think things will get very tasty, and it'd be interesting to see how Horner manages it, because, yeah, obviously you've got your star driver who you're paying £55 million per year, and then a guy who's a bit older, not willing to necessarily take as much shit anymore, going for maybe his only opportunity ever for a world championship. Yeah, it could get interesting, to say the least, and it could play into other people's hands. But yeah, quite clearly Red Bull are just in a league of their own at the moment. So hopefully, yeah, this continues to play out, and we get some spiciness in the inter-team battle rather than anywhere else. Because let's be honest, Max has only ever had. Now, I'm not saying Perez is on Verstappen's level. I'm not suggesting that whatsoever. But let's be honest, Max has never had a challenger from a teammate. Never had a challenger. And the only time he kind of really did was Sainz in his Toro Rosso days, in his early days. But of course, he was a youngster. But he's never had anyone from a team level challenge him on outright pace. I still think Max has got the outright pace on Perez, but points, it doesn't matter about pace. It matters about where you finish. And if Perez ends up ahead of Max in the championship and they're the only two going for it, yeah, I think that's got fireworks in the making. That's for sure, and it would be intriguing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is more hope than anything, but it was just intriguing to see the reactions of both camps today after the race. I think Verstappen was a little bit harsh on the team, but he knows that Perez is really his only rival for this year, and he wants to cover him off. I think he knows he's got him covered off by pace, but if reliability issues come into play, then as we've seen in previous seasons as well, i.e. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, they can be the difference between you winning a championship and not. So, yeah, remember to hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Turn those notifications on, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.